In 2018, the American Farmland Trust released a study showing that between 1992 and 2012, more than 31 million acres of farmland were lost due to urban sprawl. Things like residential housing, commercial warehouses, highways, etc. To put that in perspective, 31 million acres, about the size of Iowa. Here in Georgia, a perfect example of urban sprawl would be Henry County. Once a mecca for dairy farms, today there are none. Zero, zilch. Really, Henry County farms as a whole are disappearing. So what do you do if you're a landowner or farmer being pressured to sell by big money developers? Here now the story of one Henry County family who, after years of turning down offers, finally gave in and said, let's make a deal.
My dad used to tell me when these developers come through and negotiate with the county people, he said, you can't beat them, you just gotta negotiate with them.
Whether you're a traveler passing through or a frequent visitor, there are a few things that stand out about Henry County. Almost immediately, you notice what seems to be the never-ending and sometimes chaotic traffic on Interstate 75. There's also a plethora of shopping centers, and within the last couple of years, an image some say is progress, while others call it a travesty.
I found a notebook at the peach stand that they used to have a Locust Grove Agricultural Club and had a list of all the farmers they used to meet once a month here in Locust Grove. And they'd be from Luella and McDonald. And so there was a lot of farming in this area back then. When I was little, they still had some cotton around. My granddaddy had a cotton patch over here where there used to be one of the peach orchards. And I remember walking out in the cotton, it was higher than my head.
You heard Lee make reference to a peach stand. Back in the day, Gardner Farms was a popular tourist attraction before agritourism became a thing. It was owned by Lee's father, Samuel Howe Gardner. Eventually, Lee, his brother Tom, and the rest of the family took over the day-to-day operations. But in time, the upkeep became too much, and after years of delaying the inevitable, the Gardner family agreed it was time.
We didn't have the land for sale, and it was approached to us, and somebody came and talked to us about it, and we weren't interested. And but it eventually got to where we can't keep this forever because we can't farm peaches. We're having a tough time trying to keep the deer out of them. And so that's when we come to our final decision. When the next offer came along, we entertained it, and that's where we went.
And just like that, generations of memories wiped out in a day by bulldozers, only to be replaced by concrete and steel. Fast forward 2 years, another Gardner is faced with that same gut-wrenching decision. Tom and Lee's cousin Randy. This time, however, the offer didn't include a business, but his home of 26 years and the land on which it sat.
When a family has property they can no longer farm, it becomes a liability. You pay taxes on it and it's just still sitting there. It just sits there. So when it's no longer viable as farming property, the family has to make hard decisions. And that's happened over and over and over for the last 100 years for our family in this area here. The time has come, a lot of people don't like the warehousing concept, but they don't understand the southern part of Henry County has now become the southern gateway for Savannah Riverport, which is now being deepened and widened to taking the large cargo, the super cargo carriers that are going to come in. All those containers are going to come up dedicated truck lanes up 16 to I-75 to our new interchange over here at Bethlehem Road. This is going to happen within the next 3 to 5 years. And that's what the growth is in this area.
In the last 10 or 15 years, it's really took off. I mean, even when the economy took a downturn, it didn't slow it down, I don't think. But agriculture it's been a big part of this area, and I hate to see it taken over by housing developments and all like that, but I think we're just so close to Atlanta, the times are changing, and I don't see any way of slowing it down.
And as one might imagine, Randy's decision to sell hasn't come without criticism, whether it be from friends, neighbors, even perfect strangers who were seeking the rural lifestyle. But know this, his choice wasn't an easy one. And soon, his home, his land, even the house he was raised in will all be gone, replaced by more concrete and steel.
We're not the only family that's had to leave their home place. It's very hurtful for a lot of people, but it's just one of those things you have to work through. And having spoken to a lot of the demolition crews at my aunt's house across the highway, they say, man, I'm telling you, we've had to do this a lot of times over the years. And these home places that we're tearing in, we do understand that people have histories there and they've raised families there and generations and generations and generations. And I even had one of them come to me and say, well, what do you think about all this? I said, it's just something, it's just part of this life we live. We have to move on. It's time. He says, I don't see how you do it, but you pray about it and you move on. That's just the way it is.
Indeed, a powerful testimony, and our thanks to the Gardner family for sharing their story with us. We'll be right back.